welcome back to Everything But the Lesson Plan, the podcast where we talk about the real work of teaching, the parts that happen before, during, and long after the bell rings. I am your host, Francesca Thompson, and today's episode is a real time check in with educators everywhere. Because let's be honest, teaching in 2026 looks nothing like what we were trained for. Our students are showing up with more access to information than ever before, y'all. And at the same time, more uncertainty, anxiety, and disconnection. You've seen it, we've seen it. So today I want to talk about what students really need right now. And it's not what the pacing guide says, not what the newest innovative promise is, but what shows up every single day in our classrooms. This is not about doing more, y'all. It is about doing what matters. Let's start off with, you know what? Students need regulation before rigor. Yeah, I said it. Before content, before standards, before test prep, students need regulation. What are you talking about, Fran? We're teaching students who lived through the pandemic, right? Students experienced a higher level of anxiety during that time. Just remember that time, y'all. Depression, stress, and emotional distress. I will never forget my child was trying to learn how to play the violin for the first time in her life on Zoom with 30 other students. Okay. And this is an instrument that she loves, that she valued, and she was excited about going to the class, right? And so think about that time and what was going on with students during that time. Many reported feeling more anxious about things and, and fatigued than before, right? So also, people are constantly exposed to world crisis through social media. We're currently going through that, right? What do you think that does to a student who's constantly having to scroll and see what's going on around the world and you don't quite understand it? Okay. I even think about our group text as a family. We have separate group text chats and things like that. And I think about the things I want my high schooler to be exposed to in the group text and the things I don't. So I literally made a conscious effort to separate her from our adult brother and sister, mom and dad, and sister-in-law group chat because some of the things that we talk about, she just can't handle, right? She's getting it here, she's getting it there, she's getting it on social media, they're talking about it in school. And what does that do to them? In addition to that, students feel pressure to succeed without a clear pathway. Okay, these are all the things that are happening. My child is also entering into her senior year. She's about to be a senior. And she's trying to figure it out. What does she want to be when she grow up? We, I think when I was younger, parents kind of put a little more pressure on us to make sure we understood we were going to college once we finished high school. And so you would declare things early on, like, oh, yeah, I'm about to be a doctor. I think the new generation of parents like myself, we don't put as much pressure on them. And so with that means they get to explore more, get to seek out different opportunities, but they don't have that solid plan sometimes when they leave high school. And that's okay. But they want to know, they want to understand where to go. And so I see my child going through that right now. She first started off with med school. Now she's talking about being a veterinarian. And you know what? I don't know what it's going to be at the end of the day, but I've got to equip her and support her in some of her decisions and guide her with being exposed to those different things. And that's exactly what high school students need as well, or all students, to be honest with you. I just work with high schoolers, so I'm That's who I reference the most. But students just need that guidance. They may think they want to do something and they need us to kind of expose them to certain areas, give them access to certain things so that they understand what they're getting into. I think when I was in high school, my mother, she's a dental hygienist, and she was like, "You got to do something in medical. You got to do something in medical. Yeah, you need to declare a major in medical." And so I think I ended up doing occupational therapy, and because that's what she told me to do. All right. And I got and took my first class. I was like, "This is so not me. I'm dropping this class immediately because this is not me." Right. And so students they need to explore, but I would say they kind of need to explore while they're in high school and middle school and things like that. And so as teachers, we can offer them those pathways and a better understanding. Also, uh, students, they sometimes don't feel emotionally safe. Okay. There's a lot of access, right, with our young folks nowadays. Just go back to your time period growing up. I even think about the difference between my older kids and the younger one. You know, they social media didn't exist. Um, we watched TV, we saw things, that way, but social media was just not a thing back then. I mean, it did exist, but it wasn't a thing like a big thing like it is now. And so you got kids that are exposed to a lot of different things, right? And so I'm thinking about when I was growing up, we didn't have any social media. That was just not there. And so by the time we had to deal with an issue at school, you know, or something was happening, or such and such said something about you, but you would get home before that even got to you. Somebody calling you on your landline to tell you what such and such said about you. You know, now these kids are, it's immediate access. I'm going to text you. I'm going to FaceTime you. I'm going to call you while you're in class. I'm going to send you a message on Instagram, on TikTok, well, I don't know if they use Facebook, those platforms. We didn't have that much access. And so that creates that environment sometimes where kids don't feel emotionally safe. And so, what do we do? How do we support them in education? You know, if a student's nervous system is dysregulated, learning simply doesn't stick. Okay. They can't learn in those intense environments if they're worried about other things. If things are happening, if they're exposed to what's going on in the country, what's going on in their classrooms, what's going on in their schools, or what's going on with them personally, if they don't feel safe, how can they possibly even care about what your lesson plan is today? Right. And so in 2026, teaching means this: normalizing emotional check ins, right? We've got to make that a part of our classroom culture, not just for the students. Y'all know I'm an advocate for teachers as well. Okay, what are those emotional check ins? What does it look like? I remember at my first school, I did this study, and it was about students just taking a moment every time they entered into my classroom before we just started in the lesson. We would actually have a mindful moment. We would do some deep breathing. We would clear our minds and our thoughts, and then we would go into the lesson. Why did I do that? Because I'm thinking about the tenseness of just classroom change, getting from one class to the next, trying, and back then lockers was a thing. Getting your lockers, running to the restroom, and running to make sure you get to my class on time because you don't want to get a tardy. And then you sit down and you're like, oh my God, what did I just go through? Right? And so we did mindful moments just to get us settled, just to get us focused, right? Even with teachers, you can't just run from your house, getting dressed in the morning, leaving your home, get into the classroom, rush into your classroom, and trying to get everything ready before the first period class without just sitting down and having your little check-in. So, teaching, breathing, grounding yourself, and pausing for a second is a good practice to implement in the classroom. Um, Even for yourself personally, for your students, just taking a moment to collect yourself. I remember when I was in school, they did have a moment of silence. I don't know if a lot of schools still do that, but I think it was good to start off the day with a moment of silence, just trying to, just clear your thoughts. Um, and we also have to understand that behavior is communication. Whatever your students are doing and going through is going to come out through in the classroom, and they may not have the words for you. So you as an educator has you have to take a deep dive into what are they trying to communicate and try to figure out how to support them in that space. This doesn't mean lowering your expectation. The rules are the rules. Okay. It just means creating conditions where students can really and can actually meet them. Okay. We just need to understand that they need adults who are human, not perfect. We not the, as Beyonce would say, the flawless teacher, right? They need the real ones. They need the adults who admit when they don't know. They model boundaries and self-care. They want to see that. They apologize when they may make a mistake or miss the mark. They show consistency and not perfection, right? That's what students are looking for. They don't want a perfect teacher. I'll never forget, I messed up this whole lesson. I was just teaching my heart off, and I was just so loud and proud and wrong. And then I finally realized I was teaching it loud, proud, and wrong. And I was like, oh my God, y'all, we got to go back. Okay, because that was not correct what I was telling you all. And so I'm human. I get it. I make mistakes. It's okay. You are too. And it's okay to say, hey, let's do it over because I was wrong, right? Get used to doing that. I also remember when I had a student who I was just having a hard time connecting to. So I had to, what we talked about earlier, understand a way to better communicate with this student. And it was that student who, when he came to class, I was like, oh my God, what kind of day are we going to have? But I had to get over that because it's like he's coming. And with that in mind, I've got to prepare and figure out how to connect with him. We ended up connecting through cryptocurrency. This boy loved cryptocurrency, and that was something, kind of new at the time. And so he was teaching me about it. And that is how we connected, is because I allowed him space to show me how to do something as a teacher. I wasn't trying to come off as I know everything and I am your teacher. I came off as, hey, yeah, this is cool. Help me to understand this world that you're in. And look, maybe I might want to get involved with cryptocurrency as well and do my own work research. And so that's how we connected. We had a great time. I learned a lot from him. I even invested in some cryptocurrency because of him. And even though I sold it now. But those are the things that our students love, right? Especially in a world full of filters and AI generated everything, authenticity stands out. It just stands out. Um, Sometimes the most powerful lesson isn't on the board. It isn't those standards that you're writing. It isn't the questions of the day, the bell ringer. It is how we respond when a student is struggling, failing, or figuring out who they are. Those are some of the most powerful lessons. So in 2026, I'm going to say relationship is still the curriculum. Okay. That's what we have to do. That should be in the curriculum, building those relationships with the students. Um, Next, students need a clear path, right? And this is a big one. Students need the truth. Not every student wants or needs a 4-year degree. All right. We've got to start changing the narrative on that. And I did an episode a couple of weeks ago about this. Just because I don't want to go to 4 year and get a 4 year degree after high school doesn't mean I lack ambition, intelligence, or potential. And we need more teachers to speak on this, okay? To stand on this, that there are options out in this world, that there are many pathways. There's just not one. Students need that exposure to trades. And in 2026, it is quite evident. Do your research on what trades are out there, what is popular. I had one of my female students who took up welding and is doing very well. Students need those work-based learning programs. They need those certifications that they can get in high school so that once they graduate, they can start working. They may want to work and go to school, and that certification that they got in high school will support them being able to work and go to school. Students understand entrepreneurship. They want that. They want to start their own businesses. Some of them have them. They just need support on making sure they're making the best decisions for a business. Military service is still an option, it's still on the table. 2 year pathways, getting your associate's degree in dental hygiene, getting your certificate as an electrician. Those are still real careers, and we need to speak on it. Um, when we celebrate one version of success, we unintentionally tell students they're already behind. Okay. If you're only promoting the one thing and that doesn't fit for me, I'm going to feel out of place, right? I'm going to force myself in a situation that doesn't fit for me, and I'm not going to be successful in that. And I end up getting out of that program, that degree pathway in the first place. So it's good that we have options. I would say do your research to find out what options are available in your community. Those people are willing to come to your school and have conversations with your students. They can be guest speakers. Reach out to your community colleges, reach out to your technical colleges, reach out to local entrepreneurs. They are willing to come and support you. How do I know this? Because I have more than a handful coming to my school tomorrow. We're having our first career and trade fair. And this is for my students who don't want to go to 4 year, right? So in 2026, guidance means helping students see themselves in the future that fits them, not what society says we should be doing, right? Um, Students need digital literacy, not just technology. Our students are fluent in apps, okay, but not always in discernment. All right. Many people still get news on social media platforms. And here's some stats for you. About 53% of US adults say they at least sometimes get news from social media, which means a lot of people are exposed to information that is both true and false. So think from the perspective of a student. How are they going to understand what is true and false? What are some of the things that you're teaching them to navigate that space and understand that not everything that someone puts out there is believable? This is big because for whatever reason, sometimes when they see this stuff on social media, they look at it as this is factual, this is real, this actually happened. And now with this AI generated content, yes, I was fooled the other day. I saw these female wrestlers and I thought they were real. They were very, very built. And my husband was like, girl, that is AI generated. I was like, it is not. These people are really in here fighting like this and this. And he's like, no, that is AI generated. And I had to go and do my research. I was like, oh my God, they really did fool me. I thought it was real content. And so we live in that space now where we got to kind of help our kids understand and figure out what is true and what is false. Exposure doesn't mean belief, but it does influence people. So, nearly half of Americans are likely to be informed or misinformed about what they see on social media. One of the surveys showed that um, just what I was talking about earlier, that, a lot of people are getting their news on these social media platforms. And around 67% of Americans reported seeing fake news on social media. So that's more than half people know that this stuff is fake. And many people share misinformation unknowingly. So if I don't know that it's fake, I'm sending that in the group chat and I'm sending it to everybody, and then they're sending it to other people. And then by the time it is over with, people are going to be sending this fake news all over the world, not knowing the damage that is being done. And so one of the surveys is saying that 38% of US users reported having unknowingly shared fake news or misinformation on these social platforms. So what are we doing in the school system to help them better understand that? We need to help them learn how to evaluate the information, how to use AI ethically and responsibly. We got to show them how to protect their identity and their mental health online, y'all. I always tell my child, okay, it's unplug. We're unplugging for today, or we're unplugging for an hour. And when I say unplug, I'm talking about phone, laptop, iPad, and TV. We're going outside and taking a walk. Okay. We're going to sit on the deck and read a book. All right. We will go and do old school, ride a bike. Okay. Go to the neighbor's house and play. All right. That's what I'm talking about, to help and support that mental health. Let me tell you something, self-care Sunday is my thing. Now, I'm every day going out walking, doing something with nature, but I take self-care Sundays. Okay. That's my thing. And that means for me, I am disconnecting. I am outside. This past Sunday, I went to the park, looked at a little tiny miniature waterfall or whatever you want to call it. Some people were like, "Girl, you exaggerating. That was a stream." Um, in my mind, I made it a waterfall. Okay, whatever. That was for my mental health. And I just, prayed. I just was, thinking about things, um, reflecting on life, just enjoying myself, listening to nature, and just had a good time. We've got to teach our students how to do that. Disconnect and just be at one with nature, right? Be at one with yourself. Just reflect on who you are. Just sit still for a moment without using your thumb to scroll, right? We've got to teach them how to think critically instead of just consuming content as well, right? Don't just sit there and scroll, scroll, scroll and not, figure out if these things are true or what is the next step to have a better understanding of what this information is. What is it that you want to learn? What is it that you want to know? How can you find these things online to help you in your journey? I would say this: technology isn't the enemy, but unexamined technology is very dangerous. And in 2026, teaching means helping students to become thinkers, not just users. Also, students need hope that feels real, y'all. Hope cannot be vague anymore, especially in the world that we live in. Do your best isn't enough when students feel unsure about the world they're inheriting. Okay? They need adults who believe in them consistently. All right? They want stories of people who took the non-linear path, right? And they want evidence that effort leads somewhere meaningful. And so to me, I just feel like the classroom looks different. It's more about storytelling. It's more about giving them vision, giving them hope through what is going on in the world. You can use what's going on in a positive way. I used to love playing TED Talks in my classroom, definitely big on guest speakers. And I was a storyteller as a teacher. I am the type of person, I meet a lot of people. People are always sharing with me their paths, their journeys, and I am telling kids that. I am sharing that with my students because in that there is a little bit of hope. A lot of times the students can identify with something that I said, and that gets them to move and to act on something. And so we got to get back to that storytelling, bringing that meaning into the classroom. Sometimes hope sounds like this: I see you, you're not behind, you still have time, I understand you. That's my story too. There's more than one way. That matters more than we realize when we understand what hope sounds like. So, this is what the classroom looks like in 2026. It's totally different. Okay. And I want to know what they are teaching in colleges as far as what it should look like for teachers, how this information should come across in their classrooms. You know what? If you're listening to this and thinking, you know what, I'm tired. Gosh, this is a lot. I'm tired. You know what? You're not failing. You're responding to a system that hasn't caught up to the reality yet. All the things that I've suggested, it can be a lot. But teaching in 2026 isn't about being everything to everyone. You can't. You just possibly can't. It's about being intentional and grounded and present. You don't have to save every student, but your presence might be the reason one student believes they can save themselves. And think about that. Have you seen that? I know I have. And that is what matters the most. So don't take everything I said. Maybe take one thing I said and work on that, right? For your 2026 school year. And you're going to be great. You already great. You're already great. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for adapting. Thank you for staying, especially on those hard days. I know it's tough. And until next time, my teachers, my educators, I need you to keep doing one thing for me: keep thriving.